You said, "It's all good," but your soul screamed, "Don't go," and the echo of that absence still breathes in your chest. It was one of those conversations where nothing seems decisive, yet everything changes forever. The words came lightly, as if they were just another casual exchange between you two, but you noticed it was different. The way he looked at you wasn't whole anymore. The touch hesitated, and the silence seemed to scream louder than any phrase. You felt he was already gone, even while he was still there, even while responding, even while saying that everything was fine. But you felt it. That perception that can't be explained, only felt like when a door closes behind you and suddenly the air changes, as if an ancient wind swept away something that will never return. In that moment, your body was still seeking presence, but the presence no longer sought you. And why did it hurt so much? Because he didn't fight, didn't struggle, didn't argue. Because his "it's all good" was the greatest abandonment you ever felt. Cold, cutting, polite. It was the kind of ending that doesn't end with a period, but with the end of a gaze. You tried to keep the conversation going as if you hadn't noticed, but something in you already knew. It was already saying goodbye, and no one heard. Not him, not even you, because it was still too early to name the end, but too late to prevent it. How many times did you relive that moment afterward? How many times did you try to find where he left? Because his body stayed, but his heart did not, and that tears you apart. Because when someone leaves without closing the door properly, the draft that remains sweeps away everything that was still you. You tried to convince yourself he was just distant, tired, confused. But the truth is that it was no longer love. It was just a memory of what once was. And even unwillingly, you accepted it. You pretended not to see, pretended there was still a we, pretended it was just a phase. But inside, you realized. And when you said "it's okay" back, that's when your heart also began to drift away, even if slowly, even if with guilt. Because what often kills a love is not the mistake, it's the absence of reaction. It's the other person leaving without even fighting. Have you ever been through that? Tell me in the comments. You didn't know, but that day, the key to the relationship fell to the ground, and he didn't bend down to pick it up. You realize it now, don't you? Over time, the longing stopped being for him, and it became yours, for yourself. You started to miss the woman you loved, who believed, who waited for messages with a racing heart. Now, it was just silence. The worst loneliness is the one that exists in the presence of another. It's being together and feeling alone. You woke up next to someone, but your heart would wake up empty. You waited for a touch and received distance. You hoped for a word and found the "I'll be right back" that never came back. You noticed. His gaze no longer lingered on yours. Conversations were about practical things. Plans no longer included you, and affection turned into protocol. How cruel is the day you realize you are begging for attention, that any scrap seems like affection. And you stopped asking, because you realized that asking for love is the quickest way to lose it forever. So you began to keep quiet, for protection, for pride, for exhaustion. But the silence was filled with screams. Screams only you could hear. Inside, deep, cutting. It's hard to admit, but love was dying, and you were both contributing to it. Him, with his disinterest. You with your fear of facing the truth, and that's what hurts the most. Knowing that the end could have been different, but no one had the courage to truly try. Have you heard that phrase before? Comment. I have, yes. And then, one day, you looked at yourself in the mirror and didn't recognize yourself. There stood a tired woman, hurt, waiting for something that wouldn't come. And in that moment, only in that one, you began to come back to yourself. It wasn't quick, it wasn't pretty, but it was real. You realized that the "I'm fine" you said was actually a cry for help, and that the "I'm fine" he replied with was a cowardly goodbye. But still, you survived. Now you carry a different kind of longing. It's no longer for him. It's for who you were before you abandoned yourself to avoid losing someone. Breathe. This realization is your key. Time has passed, and the memories have lost their color. You still remember the touch, the scent, the way he used to fix his hair, but now it doesn't hurt like it used to, because now you look back and realize he left in a way that taught you how to stay with yourself. The pain left a scar, but it also left clarity. Today you understand, some loves come just to reveal the absence you feel of yourself, And they leave like this, without making a sound. As if they never existed, but you know they did. You were there, whole, real, trying. And that no one can take away from you. You learn to respect the silence, to listen to what the other doesn't say, and even more, not to ignore the signs your own heart emits. He didn't lose you because he left. He lost you the day he stopped seeing you. And you lost yourself the day you stopped noticing yourself, but now you've come back. More alone? Maybe. Lighter? Definitely. You can now lie down at night without waiting for the message that doesn't come. You can go out without wondering if he will notice. You can laugh without apologizing for your joy. This is where everything changes. This is where the new beginning starts. In the moment you realize that the "I'm fine" was never about him. It was about you learning to say enough, even without saying it, even in silence, even slowly falling apart inside. Finish this sentence. Being a woman in Brazil is... You stayed. You stayed until the end, until it hurt, until there was no turning back. And for that, now you have every right to leave, not out of pride, not out of anger, but realizing that love doesn't have to be a battlefield. If this text resonated with you, comment, "I needed to hear this." You made it this far. It wasn't by chance. Something inside you felt every word, every pause, every absence that I described. Because deep down you didn't read this text, you remembered it. Remembered it from whom? From that moment. From that relationship. From that place where you fell silent out of love, and in silencing yourself you began to lose pieces of yourself. Now let me tell you something you may have never heard with such clarity. You weren't left behind that day. You were gradually left behind. In the small forgettings. In the glances that didn't return. In the rush to hang up the phone. In the absence of sincere questions. In the "we'll talk later" that never came. But you noticed it all, even while pretending not to. Even wanting to believe it was just a phase. Your body noticed. Your skin felt the absence of touch long before it actually left. And your spirit, it was already crying silently, long before the end arrived. It's hard to realize that the end of a relationship can be polite, respectful, without shouting, without betrayal, without scandals, but still lethal, because the lack of presence slowly kills. Maybe this is the most cruel mourning, the one we don't even have the courage to live, because technically the person is there, but emotionally they've been gone for a long time. Do you know this place? That routine where the other responds but doesn't notice. They're beside you but don't see you. They hug you but don't hold you close. They sleep next to you but wake up distant. And then you start to carry the relationship alone. You support, you ask, you insist, you try until the day you get tired. And that tiredness doesn't shout, it whispers. It settles in your eyes, in your gestures, in your way of expecting less. The day you stop demanding isn't the day you mature. It's the day you give up inside. And that's what happened, isn't it? You didn't break up with him. You broke up with hope. And maybe that was your greatest pain, because deep down all you wanted was to be chosen again. Not out of obligation, but out of enchantment. You wanted to see in his eyes that same sparkle from the beginning. You wanted to feel in his embrace the urgency of having you close. You wanted to hear your name spoken with desire, not with boredom. But time passed, and what remained was his absence, within your presence. Have you ever gone through this? Tell me in the comments. And you know what hurts even more afterwards? It's that even seeing all this you stayed, you still wanted to believe. Because when we love, we make excuses for what no longer has an explanation. We protect the other from their own absence. But now you don't have to pretend anymore. Not for him, not for anyone, not for yourself. Because it's time to look into your own eyes and say, I realized when he started to speak with less emotion, when his words lost that urgency to share life with me, when his touch became automatic, when he started to smile more at his phone than next to me. I noticed everything, but I stayed silent out of fear, out of pride, out of love. And sometimes for love we betray ourselves. But not today. Today you are here, whole, even if in pieces, but yours. And this is the part that no one sees, the silent rebirth of a woman who decides to return to herself. Not out of revenge, not out of disdain, but because she understood that no one can be your home if you yourself live exiled from your own heart. Comment a heart if you're on this journey together, and pay attention now. All that you've lived, no matter how painful it was, did not define you. It revealed you, because the love you gave, even without return, was real. Your effort was honest. Your presence was whole, and that's what matters. Those who did not appreciate it, lost. But you are now rediscovering yourself. In the mirror, in your breath, in the lightness that begins to return, in the peace of someone who no longer needs to beg for crumbs, in the silence that no longer hurts, because now it is a choice. Breathe. You've arrived at a sacred place, the place where you no longer need him to come back. Because the one who returned was you, and the woman who comes back from abandonment never gives herself halfway again. You've made it this far, but there's something inside you that still hasn't been said, something that still pulses, even after the end. It's as if, deep down, the most hurt part of you is still waiting for him to return, not to rekindle the relationship, but just to say, "I'm sorry. I realized too late," but he didn't say it. And maybe he never will, because some people only see what they've lost. When they can no longer return, you no longer need that phrase, you just thought you needed it. Because now you're beginning to realize something bigger. You didn't want him to come back. You wanted someone to see the pain you endured in silence. You wanted to be acknowledged, respected, validated. You wanted someone to say, "I know how hard you tried. I saw how much it hurt. I know what you lost to stay next to someone who had already left. So let me tell you now, in the way you deserve to hear, you went too far for someone who stayed too close to nothing. You reached out when it was you who needed support. You held the world together with your teeth to maintain a relationship that no longer held you, and still you were judged, labeled as dramatic, as too sensitive, as exaggerated. But no one saw that. Inside you were crumbling in silence. You tried to smile with an empty heart, tried to make love with a cold body, tried to cook, work, live with a broken soul. And even so, there were still those who said to you, "But why are you like this? He doesn't hit you, he doesn't cheat on you." As if the only kind of violence that existed was physical, but the pain you felt was a deep, continuous, and invisible emotional pain. It was the pain of being ignored, of being diminished, to be forgotten within a living relationship. And now, finally, you understand. The pain he caused you wasn't out of malice. It was from absence, from distraction, from not realizing that you were a whole woman right there, waiting to be seen with presence. Have you ever gone through something similar? Tell me in the comments. Now let me ask you something serious. Do you know what happens to a woman who goes through this and survives? She is reborn, but not like before. She learns to be selective. She learns to listen to her body. She learns to read the signs before abandonment. And most importantly, she learns that loving cannot cost her emotional health. You are not cold. You are not hard. You are not insensitive now. You are just a woman who no longer wants to slowly die in a lukewarm relationship. And that is not weakness, it is strength. The strength of someone who found herself alone inside a we and decided not to accept emotional crumbs as if they were banquets. You were called dramatic, but you were just a woman with raw nerves, screaming inside to not be invisible. And now you realize whoever needs you to dim your light will never be able to walk alongside you. So what you're feeling now is not loneliness, it's space. Space for yourself to return, to care, to rebuild yourself without haste. You haven't lost him, you lost who you were trying not to lose him. And that, my love, you can reclaim every part, every gesture, every detail that was left behind, little by little, with calm, with truth. You realize you no longer need justifications, nor closure, nor a final conversation, because your perception has freed you. And now, I invite you to something greater. Look at yourself with the eyes you used to look at him, with tenderness, with passion, with patience, with care. You deserve this. And when that truly happens, no one will be able to abandon you anymore. Because you will no longer abandon yourself for anyone. If this video moved you, write a word that defines you right now. My word for you today is whole. But this conversation doesn't end here. There's still a point you need to access. The day when you no longer wish for him to come back and instead you hope that he is happy but far away. That day will come. And when it arrives, you will feel a lightness so profound that even the longing will be grateful. And I will be here to walk with you until then. This was just the first step. In the next one, we'll dive deeper. I'll see you there.